Welcome to Crocoblock Addons, the plugin designed to boost your Crocoblock experience. Unlock new features, gain more control, and elevate your projects effortlessly with Crocoblock Addons. To download, visit the link in the description, go to Crocoblock Addons, and click Download. Next, navigate to your WordPress dashboard. Go to Plugins, then Add New. Click on Upload Plugin, and upload the downloaded zip file. Finally, install and activate the plugin. Go to Crocoblock Addons. Under Modules, you will see all the modules to enable or disable. I am first going to explain the single REST API. I am using a public REST API to use mock data of single users. First, create a new REST API endpoint with a working ID to get mock data of a user. Send the request. For this to work, you will need to ensure the endpoint is connected but in the incorrect format. Now make sure to save it. After saving, go to Crocoblock Addons under Single REST API. Enable it for the created endpoint and then click Save Settings. Now, go to REST API Listings and send a request for the created endpoint to check if it will work, and then save. Now, you can customize it to meet your project requirements. For demonstration, I am creating a listing. Map the data in the template for the endpoint. Now, you can add the listing grid wherever you like. For demonstration purposes, I will add it to a page. Once everything is set, update the REST API endpoint. Now make sure to save it. By default, the REST API retrieves the value of the ID from the URL query variable to process the request. To change the default URL variable ID, you can set it in the single REST API settings in Crocoblock Addons. Now, we'll explore the single listing add-on. Let me show you an example of what it can do. Imagine a mailbox layout. On the left, you have all the received emails, and on the right, a single opened email. This add-on processes the single listing of the active item. It queries the clicked item and updates the listing grid without a page reload or query variable. It also handles closing the single item view and managing cases where no item is active. Let's start by enabling the single listing add-on. For demonstration, I'll use a post type query, and at the end, I'll explain other query types. To set this up, we need two queries. The first query loads all items on the left side, where you can also set up filters to process the items displayed. For the single query, ensure the query types match. Each query type needs a setting, so the default result is 0. For a post type query, set something in post ID under post and page. Now, create a listing for all items and map any data as needed. For a live demonstration, I'm creating a page to show the output in real time. Add a listing grid and select the All Items listing with the matching query. I initially selected the old single REST API listing by mistake. But that's now fixed. Now, create the listing for the single item and map the data as needed. Add the listing grid to the page and ensure the correct custom query is selected. Add the single listing widget. Be sure to include the single listing widget, as the single listing won't work without it. Add a CSS ID to the All Items listing grid and enter it in the field in the single listing widget. Do the same for the single listing item. Now, let's check the page to see if it's working. Set up a No Active Item container to display when no items are selected. Style this container as you like, then add a CSS ID to it and enter that in the widget field. Now, set up the Close button within the single listing grid and enter its CSS ID in the Widgets field. Now, let's set up the active class. This lets you style or highlight the active item differently. Once the active class is added, you can use custom CSS to style it however you like. For now, I've applied a bold effect. Now, let's check the page to see if it's working. That wraps up this setup. Next, I'll explain the other query types. Let's go over each query type setup. For the post query type, check that the post type matches. In the single query, set something in post ID under post and pages to ensure a result count of 0. For custom content types, check the query type matches. In the single query, set the query item with field item ID, choose compare equal, and leave the value empty. For the user's query type, in the single query, add a dash and then include field to make the result count 0. For terms, check the query type and in the single query, add multiple nines in the include field to set the result count to 0. For comments, ensure it's set to comments query type. In the single query, add a dash in the comment in field to make the result count 0. For WooCommerce products, select the WC product query type and in the single query, add a dash in the include field to achieve a result count of 0. Since the video was getting lengthy, I'll explain SQL and REST API queries in the next video, which will focus on this add-on and cover each query type in detail. Looking ahead for the future of this add-ons plugin, I plan to add community add-ons with credits and attributions, Crocoblock dev tools from the website, additional options from GitHub repos and gists with credit, and new add-ons I'll create myself. This will include a mega menu builder I previously built with a Bricks widget, and I'm also planning to create an admin menu navigator for Crocoblock, similar to the Bricks navigator. That's it for this video. Thank you for watching. I'll upload the next video very soon.